How do you describe the Caped Crusader in 3 words? He's fucking awesome! Batman is one of the most iconic superheroes ever created within the DC universe. What makes him so special is he's a badass crime fighter who doesn't take shit from anyone. He doesn't have any superpowers, but rather he uses his scientific mind and innate abilities to solve the problems at hand. Also, he's trained in dozens of fighting styles, has a genius IQ, possesses a variety of weaponry and gadgets, and has trained his body to reach physical perfection to beat the fucking shit out of criminals. That's why he's considered the greatest detective in all of fictional history.
Mr. Wayne, you really are the world's greatest detective.
Also, this is the same guy who kills Superman. The fucking Man of Steel, the most powerful being in comics, was killed by a mortal man.
There's nothing near about that mortal.
Batman Forever and Batman and Robin took the Dark Knight's good name and made a mockery of the hard work it took to make Batman an icon. But before we dive into these 2 godforsaken sequels, we need to take a deeper look. And like all stories, the best place to start is in the past. Batman was first portrayed in the 1943 Batman serial starring Lewis Wilson. The plot is pretty much what you'd expect it to be, where you have Bruce Wayne disguised as Batman, with Robin the Boy Wonder played by Douglas Croft. Mind you, this was during World War II, so there was an anti-Japanese tone to the whole thing. The TV serial had a more lighter tone with the audience, using cheap camera tricks and bad acting. It's also noteworthy to mention Batman travels in a 1939 Cadillac, opposed to the Batmobile, and fought crime both day and night, whereas today, the modern Batman is always fighting crime at night. The role was passed over in 1949 to 2 new Caped Crusaders, this time by Robert Lowry as Batman and Johnny Duncan as Robin. For the most part, the series was built around Batman fighting your basic everyday common criminals. Again, this is for the hardcore fans, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Around the time sales were dropping, the character was redesigned for a more contemporary look during the 1960s. This time, Adam West donned the cape and cowl, with Burt Ward playing Robin.
Holy geography, of course!
The show had a more campy feel to it that most people appreciated, not to mention the famous choppy fistfights. Adam West does a great job portraying the role, and many still debate on who's the best Batman. Batman the movie came out shortly after the TV series, starring every single villain from the comics. The one thing you have to appreciate about the 1960s Batman is the character was overdone, and for all good reasons.
Let's go, but inconspicuously.
Of what use is a dream, if not a blueprint for courageous action?
Show me Miss Kitka, or I'll wreck this place with my dying breath.
A routine question. Have you recently sold any war surplus submarines, and if so, to whom?
Surrender, you criminals!
I always get a kick watching Adam West act like Captain Hindsight. The scene where he's running around with the live bomb is so silly, you have no choice but to laugh at it.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Batman began to die off during the 1970s, and the studios felt a recreation was necessary for a modern Batman. They took material from the comic The Dark Knight Returns and hired Tim Burton to get into the driver's seat and take the movie into the dark direction it needed. In 1989, the feature-length Batman movie was released, and it blew our fucking balls off. The dark vision Tim Burton created for the world was the perfect touch. The production design by Anton Furst is excellent. Every shot is a work of art, and you feel completely immersed in Gotham City. Michael Keaton was casted to play Batman, and his character is really enjoyable to watch. He also does a great job playing Bruce Wayne. He's so humble, just like a regular guy. His mannerisms and body language, you can just read his thoughts. But fans protested this decision to cast Keaton, sending in hate mail into the studio. The studio originally was pushing for an A-list actor to take on the role because they felt Keaton wasn't a serious actor coming off comedies like Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom. The outcry from fans was because they were expecting the movie to have a more campy feel to it like the 1960s. And I'm not fucking kidding around. Bill Murray and Eddie Murphy were almost casted for the dynamic duo, but thankfully Burton stuck to his guns, and the rest is history. Today's Batman is designed to be more mainstream, using choppy action scenes and having a more muscle-bound Batman. The thing that makes the 1989 film work is the film doesn't rely on expensive special effects or heavy stunt choreography to get the point across. It's smart directing at its best that makes the film stand out. Like I always say, less is more. Following its success came the highly anticipated sequel, Batman Returns. Michael Keaton came back to reprise the role as Batman, and Tim Burton was given full range to do whatever he wanted with full creative control. This time, the film focuses less on Batman's character and focuses more on the villains, featuring an all-star cast. The movie had mixed reviews from fans as it's considered too depressing and weird, but nevertheless, Tim Burton did a great job reimagining a new story for the franchise. It's not the worst Batman movie, but it's not the greatest either. It's a movie you should check out to see what I'm talking about. Batman the Animated Series came out shortly after, which adopted a lot of Tim Burton's themes. So at this point, this is the modern Batman that should have been carried over into other untapped stories to tell. Simple, right? Well, in 1995, Hollywood took a giant shit all over the Batman logo. Warner Brothers decided to go into a new direction that basically kicked the Tim Burton films under the rug and did a complete 180 in the following sequels. I'm not going to mention the director's name because I don't want to give him the satisfaction, but I'll give you a hint. His first name starts with Joel, his middle name begins with Dickface, and his last name ends with Schumacher. Batman Forever steered away from the dark, edgy feel from the first two films and took a more brighter tone. This time, Val Kilmer was casted for Batman. Don't ask me why.
Let's see what Mr. Keaton came up with. You wrote, Val Kilmer sucks.
This is the movie that first introduced Robin, played by Chris O'Donnell, which is good, and I'm happy they incorporated Robin's story with the Flying Raisins as part of the plot, opposed to just being another flashback. I really think they blew a great opportunity to make Robin's story more involved, but once again, it's Joel Schumacher directing, who's arguably more of a douchebag than John Edward. This film also has way too many puns.
Can I persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir?
I'll get drive-through. It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
Nicole Kidman was casted for this movie's heroine, but who gives a fucking shit about her? I mean, go back to butt-fucking Tom Cruise, why don't you?
Dad! Tom Cruise won't come out of the closet!
Anyone growing up in the 90s knew about Jim Carrey and the profound effect he had on the entertainment industry. The main problem I had with this choice is he plays the character almost identical to his other roles. I always have a hard time separating him from the character.
Spank me. Who spanked you?
The film does have some holes in it which I have to poke at. In the scene where the Two-Face is chasing Batman, the Batmobile shoots a grappling hook and scales the building to make a getaway. I guess they wanted to replicate a similar scene from Batman Returns, but the mother of all riddles is how the hell did the car get down? Next, when Two-Face and Riddler ambush Wayne Manor, Two-Face shoots Batman in the head and somehow survives. Have you ever seen anyone take a bullet to the brain and not die? Now, let's go on to the real dog shit. Batman and Robin, which just slaps the honor of the Dark Knight's name in the face. This time, George Clooney takes on the role, and I have only one thing to say about that. Suck my fat balls.
Okay, and your wager? George Clooney sucks.
Why wouldn't they bring back Val Kilmer for continuity? It worked well when Keaton came back for the sequel. You can't help but notice it seems like a spoof, almost like they were going for the campiness from the 1960s. But to be honest, I think He Who Shall Not Be Named tried directing the film on a serious note and just sucked across all theaters. The other thing I have to point out is the title, Batman and Robin. The first three films start off as Batman, then Batman Returns, then Batman Forever. Calling it Batman and Robin sounds like it's a prequel to the franchise, and Robin already made his appearance in the last movie. I mean, you already used cliche words for the other movies. Why not just call it Batman Continues, or Batman Unlimited, or Batman Flies In Again? Calling it anything other than Batman and Robin would have been a way better decision. I mean, what were they thinking? Now, let's get to the villains. We have Poison Ivy, played by Uma Thurman. Her character's okay for a spoof, but there's nothing noteworthy I want to mention. Then we have Mr. Freeze, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, the guy coming off the film True Lies and arguably the greatest sequel ever made. You have to note that this movie wasn't focusing on Batman as much as you want to believe. The movie was revolving around Schwarzenegger because he was a much bigger action star at the time. Here's a better example. Take the Fast and Furious franchise. By the time the film made its fifth sequel, you weren't waiting for Vin Diesel to take action. You were waiting for all the times Dwayne Johnson was going to pop his face on the big screen. When you watch this movie, you're not waiting for Batman to appear. You're waiting for how many times Schwarzenegger makes an appearance and for all the wrong reasons. I mean, look at the prominent photo they used to show him on the cover, while Batman is just on the side like a third-rate character. Without a doubt, they wanted Schwarzenegger to pull in the audience, not to mention he references too many ice puns.
Iceman cometh. You are not sending me to the cooler. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! Stay cool, bird boy. All right, everyone. Chill. It's a cold town. Night! Hell freezes over. Let's kick some ice.
So, all in all, you're asking yourself, how did they go from this to this? Well, I'll give you just one hint.
For justice, making Two-Face pay twice the price. Or reveal the explosive workings of the Riddler's heavily armored hideout.
Fire!
The Batman Forever micro playsets each sold. Now gear up Bruce Wayne as Batman with punishing ice block armor. As he joins Iceboard Robin, Mr. Freeze launches a shivering shockwave, but heat scan Batman deploys his thermal sensors. His ice pummeling projectile.
That's right. The whole thing was a ploy for toy sales. And that's just a shame because they had to butcher a very good franchise just to make a quick dollar. I would have been interested to see where the franchise would have gone, even if Tim Burton didn't come back. It would have been great for someone to take over right where Batman Returns ended. A lot of you have asked me to look into the Christopher Nolan series and compare that with the previous Batman films, but I'm saving that for another time because there's way too much to cover. But trust me, I'll get to that. If you like these types of videos, click the like button and subscribe to my channel so I can make more of these videos for you.